so glad that you could make our time to join us on today's episode of Tax Matters. My name is Olumiwa Matuloko. Last episode on Tax Matters, we were looking at the Voluntary Assets and Income Declaration Scheme recently launched by the federal government of Nigeria. And we had a guest in the house, in the person of Mr. Albert Folorenshaw, a tax consultant and a member of the federal government implementation team for VATs. Mr. Folorenshaw is still with us today, and the topic remains Voluntary Assets and Income Declaration Scheme. Mr. Folorenshaw, welcome once again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Maybe you want to begin by, again, telling our viewers the benefits accruable to anybody or any corporate organization that takes advantage of the VAT scheme. Let's begin with what is VAT again. What does it cover in form of time, in form of taxes, and how long is the period of the grace that has been given to tax defaulters?
Okay. Again, VAT is a voluntary asset and income declaration scheme. It is a scheme that has been put together by the federal government in order to give opportunity to taxpayers who have not been compliant or who have not regularized their tax status to voluntarily regularize their tax status and declare their asset and income, and of course pay the taxes on those income. It is a form of amnesty, which is by giving a waiver of penalty, waiver of interest, exclusion from audit, exclusion from investigation, and of course exclusion from prosecution, provided the declaration was made faithfully, honestly, and truthfully. So if those are correct, then you can be said to have come under VAT and you can enjoy the benefit as listed. Now, the declaration is expected to be made for both asset and income of asset and income acquired and income generated in the last 6 years. The declaration is to be made at the VAT offices that have been opened all over Nigeria, both at the federal and the state level. And each person is expected to make those declarations and pay the taxes to the relevant tax authority. If you're an individual, you pay those taxes to the state where you are resident. If you're a corporate body, the taxes is payable to the Federal Inland Revenue Service. And of course, VAT covers all forms of taxes: personal income tax, company income tax, petroleum profit tax, capital gains tax, value-added tax, stamp duties, and all other taxes that are payable to both state and federal government.
When is the period of grace? How long will VAT last?
VAT starts from 1st of July 2017, and it will last till 31st of March 2018. After the expiration of the VAT period, federal government is working. They are putting information together concerning taxpayers who have not been compliant, taxpayers who have assets that they think have not been declared, and taxpayers who have funds on which they think taxes have not been paid. Okay, and of course they plan to go after the tax defaulters.
At the formal launching on June 29 at the Aso Villa in Abuja, we saw some people that were referred to as community tax liaison officers. In fact, some of them made presentations. What is their role in all this?
Well, the community tax liaison officers are persons from different states that are being trained, by the federal government through the Ministry of Finance, for detailed knowledge of taxation, to know what tax is, to be able to guide people on the tax obligation. If you look at the study that was carried out, it was observed that the tax personnel in Nigeria are far low compared to several other countries, taking into consideration the population of Nigeria. And so there was the need to get more people, on board to support the existing tax authorities. So these community tax liaison officers are being trained on weekly basis by the federal government, and they are being deployed to various states to support, the employees in those states. They are to work in consonant with those states. They are not tax experts, okay? But of course, they have good idea of tax. They can tell you the taxes that you are supposed to pay, who you are supposed to pay the tax to, in fact, to the extent of helping you to complete the declaration form, and then guiding you, working with they are going to be led by those who are tax experts, those who are tax officials of the states and federal government, I mean Federal Revenue Service, go into the nook and crannies of the country and more or less encourage and ask people to come into the tax net.
Okay. Does this concern only assets and liabilities locally held, or are you going to poke your nose into my overseas assets?
Well, federal government, like I said, it is a time-limited opportunity,
Yes.
which means up to 31st of March. And after that, government, of course, the government is working. They are liaising with other international organizations who have also implemented similar program.
Okay.
And assets are being traced by the Ministry of Finance, have the asset tracing team. And so the tracing people who have assets overseas. Of course, the essence is to reduce the illicit fund flow, okay, and of course to be able to ensure that those who have earned genuine income pay taxes on those income, okay. So that is one of the essence of a VAT, and that is why it has been limited to 31st March. After that, definitely those who have those assets and have not come forward, the federal government will definitely reach out to them, okay, based on several things. The BVN is there, the asset tracing team, the land registry, the vehicle registration authority. All of those, are helping government to track the high net worth individuals and those who have assets outside Nigeria. Yeah, if you have assets outside Nigeria and you have paid tax on the fund that you use in acquiring the asset, you don't have to pay tax. The only thing is that if you generate income outside Nigeria, of course, again, it depends on whether the country where the income is being generated has a tax treaty with Nigeria. If there is tax treaty, of course, we have to look at the states that have a priority of taxing. Okay, if you have an asset in UK, for example, and you generate rent, the source of the rent is UK, so they have priority of taxation. Okay, and so if that rent is again brought into Nigeria, okay, of course we have provision in the tax law that says that where you have dividend, interest, rent, and royalties from outside Nigeria, and it is repatriated to Nigeria, there will be no tax in Nigeria. But where those funds are not repatriated, they may still be taxed in Nigeria. And of course, if they are to be taxed in Nigeria, and the income is from a country with tax treaty with Nigeria, then you are eligible to claim double taxation relief. Okay?
I'm getting confused, and I want you to clear this for our viewers. Okay. I have a house in England, okay, right? Yeah. I put it up for rent. I collect rent. I know that the UK government will have a way to tax that rental income. Okay. Why do you want to tax me in Nigeria again?
Because you are resident. If you are resident in Nigeria, yes, your global income is ordinarily liable to tax in Nigeria, except yes, those income are exempt. Okay, so
no, but that rental income, yes, that income that I earn in the UK on that property, yes, is taxed in the UK.
Yeah, the UK has priority of tax because yes, the property is in UK. Yes, because you are resident in Nigeria, Nigeria also have taxing rights. Why? But of course, you are tax resident. An individual that is resident in Nigeria is liable to tax on the global income, except there are exemptions.
Hey, I'm not arguing against that, but okay. If a Nigerian player, yeah, in an English club, okay, earns salary in the UK, you know these high-falutin salaries that they earn, yes, £10,000 per week, blah 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 blah. I'm sure he pays tax in the UK. Yeah. He goes ahead, buys property in the UK. But he's a Nigerian.
The fact that you're a Nigerian does not mean...
Why does he have to pay tax in Nigeria?
I didn't say such a person will pay tax because the person is not resident in Nigeria. You are a player, you are in UK, you are resident in UK. So you don't have any... It's just that you are a national of Nigeria. That does not make you exposed to tax in Nigeria, okay, except you have other sources of income inside Nigeria. Okay? You are resident outside Nigeria, generating income outside Nigeria, paying your tax, paying your tax outside Nigeria. It has nothing to do with Nigeria. The fact that you are a Nigerian does not mean that you are liable to tax. Okay. But if such a person has property in Nigeria from which rent is being generated, has business outfit from which income is being generated, because the source of the income is Nigeria, such income will still be liable to tax
What
in
if he
Nigeria.
brings that money from the UK? That property that he bought,
Yeah.
maybe he bought the first one, he's living there with his children
Yeah.
and his wife. Then he buys another one, puts it up for rent, he's earning income,
Yeah.
he's paying taxes on the rent.
Okay.
He now decides that they're advertising property sale in Lekki in Lagos, or in Ogudu in Lagos,
Yeah.
or GRA in Port Harcourt. He brings £10,000 and buys property in Port Harcourt.
Yeah.
He has paid tax on that income in the UK. What's your business with him?
No business except the property that he's buying in Nigeria. If he begins to generate rent, that rent is again liable to tax in Nigeria.
It's not that asset that is liable to tax.
No, not the asset.
It's what
the,
he generates
exactly,
from it.
Exactly.
Okay.
It is the rent accruing from the asset that can be exposed to Nigeria, because the source of the rent is Nigeria.
But the
Even
source
though-
of the income is UK.
No, the income now,
I brought the money from
the
the
income
UK.
we're talking about is the rent. The income he generates from UK, he has used it to acquire assets
Good.
in Nigeria. We're not going to tax
He
the
has not
assets.
committed any
apart from
offense.
the normal tenement rate. He has not
Okay.
committed any offense.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, but people who are here, who
Have
like
property.
we keep reading in the papers, have bought flats and apartments in Dubai,
Okay.
have bought in the UK, in Atlanta, in Georgia. They have to declare, and they have to pay tax on them.
They have to declare those assets.
Yes.
And if the income, they use in acquiring those assets were generated from Nigeria, and they have not paid tax,
How do you determine that?
they have to declare voluntarily. Government, as an individual, we can check you online to find out whether you have been paying your taxes. Different states have a record of taxpayers.
Yes.
Federal government has record of taxpayers. Okay, so if they check those records and you have not been paying tax, you are ordinarily supposed to pay tax on the fund. If those funds were generated from Nigeria, that's one. Two, if the assets now you have acquired is now generating income outside Nigeria, and you are resident in Nigeria, okay, and there is no exemption or there is no tax treaty, then, of course, because you are resident and you have income, you are supposed to pay tax in Nigeria.
Okay.
Okay? You may be eligible to claim credit for the foreign tax you have paid on the same income.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what about the taxes I've paid before? If I come under VATs now,
Yeah.
and what you have discovered is that, well, I've not paid enough, will you take cognizance of the taxes I've paid?
Of course, like I said again, if you go through the declaration process, which means you declare your asset, declare your income. In declaring your income, you also declare how much tax you have paid on those income in the past. So by the time you ascertain how much tax is due, the amount you have paid in the past will be deducted, and then it is the balance that you now pay to the relevant tax authority. So definitely, the taxes you have paid in the past, will be taken into consideration in arriving at how much is now due and payable to the relevant authority.
The Federal Inland Revenue Service FIRS calls on all corporate organizations operating in Nigeria to register for the purpose of payment of taxes and obtain a tax identification number TIN. All registered companies must obtain a tax identification number immediately from the nearest FIRS office. You can also collect and return tax registration forms from the Federal Inland Revenue Service Engagement and Enlightenment Tax Teams, FEAT, on compliance checks exercise in your area. A company which is yet to commence business after at least 6 months of incorporation must pay a pre-operational levy of 20,000 naira in the first year and 25,000 naira for subsequent years to obtain its tax clearance certificate TCC. Note that filing and payment of VAT and withholding tax returns must be done on or before the 21st day of every month. Register for VAT. File all tax returns as and at when due. Be a responsible corporate citizen of Nigeria. It pays to pay your tax. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
If I fail to come under the VAT scheme, if I fail to take advantage of the magnanimity of government, what happens?
Okay. The first thing is that government is working, like I said, working on, gathering all the taxpayers. Technology today is at the top. BVN is all over the place. There's evidence from the world-leading consultant on those who have assets. I understand that even there are some banks abroad that when you have so much fund now, they ask you to bring evidence that you have declared under VAT in Nigeria. Okay, we also have the asset tracing team who is collating those who have assets all over Nigeria and outside Nigeria. We also have the NFIU, the Fast Car. Okay, all of those are authorities that are, working together with the federal government, and we have this exchange of information arrangement. In fact, one of the reasons why Nigeria came up with VAT is the fact that other countries are requiring information of Nigeria, and so we are also requiring those countries to, under a reciprocal arrangement, to also give information to the federal government. And recently I saw in the papers that federal government has gathered the top 100 high net worth individuals from each state. Okay, yes, and of course, immediately after the expiration of the scheme, by 31st of March, government will begin to write and raise those assessments, okay, under maybe based on judgment or based on the actual information that they will have gathered, and then they will be required to pay. At that time, there will be no waiver of penalty, there will be no waiver of interest. Of course, audit will be intensified, and in fact, it can lead to investigation, and of course, end up with a criminal prosecution for failure to comply. All of those are being put in place. In fact, I understand there is a team that is already working on post-VAT activities. And so that is why taxpayers can see increase in activities. And of course, federal government has also helped some of the state in training the CTLOs. They call them the community tax liaison officers, okay, who are to support the state internal revenue service and even the federal revenue service in taking this message of tax compliance to the various areas in Nigeria, to the market women, to traders, to small companies all over the place, and even those in to churches and mosques alike. So the message is going around, and I'm sure towards the end of the year it will be intensified. So I expect increase in activity on VAT, okay, in the next few months.
Now, to underscore the importance of VAT to the different taxing authorities, and we mean the state internal revenue services as well as the FIRS, at the 138th meeting of the Joint Tax Board, the main focus of that one-day meeting was VAT. And we recall that on the sidelines of that JTB meeting, we spoke with you and we were asking you about those companies that are already under audit. Let's make it clear. VAT has been instituted. But prior to the institution of VAT, I was under investigation or audit. Okay. What's my fate? Can I just say, hey, tax official, I beg, hold on. I want to now come out clean under VAT.
Okay. Now, the audit that is being carried out by either the state or the Federal Inland Revenue Service now has to do with audit of the returns you have filed. On a yearly basis, individuals are expected to file returns of their activities, of their businesses within 3 months by 31st of March, while for companies under Companies Income Tax Act, you are expected to file your return within 6 months. If you are into petroleum exploration, you file within 5 months. So you have already filed those returns with the Federal Inland Revenue Service and with the state, and under the self-assessment scheme. Okay, so audit is expected to review the returns you have filed. So if audit is going on, it is not a declaration. Federal government the tax officials are auditing what you already declared under your self-assessment, even though several other things can still be discovered. So if you think you are under audit and you have other things that you know you have not declared, you can come under VAT. Okay, you can come under VAT.
And so why don't you call up the audit? I have agreed that I lied, that I did not make full disclosure. Okay. Maybe I could have gotten away with it. Maybe because of your training as tax officials, you will get me. But now the federal government has put in place VAT. So, Oga, leave me alone. I mean, if somebody was under investigation by the police, and the police bring out one or two things, and these people know, okay, Oga, now me do am. Why don't you simply call up the audit? Why is it difficult?
I mean, VAT is not a replacement for audit.
But I've agreed that I've lied.
Yes, you know, if you have lied, and I don't speak for the tax authority, okay. But what I know is that when you come forward to say that, see, I'm being audited, but I want to come under VAT, they will not stop you from coming under VAT. So you can make your declaration. Okay. Remember that such declaration must be made faithfully, honestly, and truthfully.
That's what I've decided
and so to confirm that you have made those declarations faithfully, the tax authority will still review your declaration. It is not whatever you say is correct.
Okay,
no.
You will still punish me.
No.
Because under VAT,
audit is not punishment.
I'm free of interest, penalty, no tax audit, no investigation.
Yeah.
Abba.
No, audit is not punishment. Audit is just to confirm that the self-assessment you made is correct. And if it is not correct, so still under VAT, when you declare under VAT, to confirm that you have made that declaration faithfully, honestly, and truthfully, your declaration will still be reviewed by the tax authorities.
Yes.
Your declaration
But
will
that's
be
not
reviewed.
an audit.
It's not an audit. It's just a quick check of what you have declared.
Do you agree?
Vis-a-vis the information. Vis-a-vis the information that the government already have. Like I said, government have information on everybody.
You're not going to take my word for it. I will declare under this faithfully, honestly, but then those records will still be checked. But that's not audit.
It's not audit. It's different from coming to your office. By the time I look at your declaration form, you said you have 2 houses at Ikoyi, and I'm not too sure how much rent you are receiving. I will ask you, okay, what of the rent? Is it that the tenant has left? You know, just basic thing like that. It's not coming after you. The executive order issued by the acting president then, you know, is to the effect that if you are under audit, you can also come under VAT. Okay, so that's this VAT is not going to negate that. Okay. It's to encourage as many people to come as possible. And of course, you know, it has effect of immediate revenue generation. So the tax authority, I believe, I don't speak for them, are not going to jeopardize that. Okay. But of course, the important thing that we taxpayers must also know is that VAT, being a voluntary declaration, must be made faithfully, truthfully, and honestly. And how do you do that? By having a quick check of your declaration.
You must come out clean. Yes. And the government, the tax authorities still have the right to cross-check
what you have declared, to confirm that it is has been faithfully made and it is truthful.
The Federal Inland Revenue Service FIRS calls on all corporate organizations operating in Nigeria to register for the purpose of payment of taxes and obtain a tax identification number TIN. All registered companies must obtain a tax identification number immediately from the nearest FIRS office. You can also collect and return tax registration forms from the Federal Inland Revenue Service Engagement and Enlightenment Tax Teams, FEET, on compliance checks exercise in your area. A company which is yet to commence business after at least 6 months of incorporation must pay a pre-operational levy of 20,000 naira in the first year and 25,000 naira for subsequent years to obtain its tax clearance certificate TCC. Note that filing and payment of VAT and withholding tax returns must be done on or before the 21st day of every month. Register for VAT. File all tax returns as and at when due. Be a responsible corporate citizen of Nigeria. It pays to pay your tax. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
We thank you, Moses, for coming on to the program.
My pleasure.
We expect you back very soon because we know that you are an all-rounder. But yes, we brought you here because of VAT, but we will still need your services. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, viewers, for watching. Let's do this again next week. Same station, same day of the week, same time of the day. And it will be time for a fresh episode of Tax Matters. Keep your nose dry, obey the law, pay your taxes. Have a blessed week ahead.